UFC Fight Night Vegas 26, Rodriguez versus Waterson takes place in only a couple of hours, so these are my last minute detailed predictions. I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card. I'm not calling who I think's going to win. I've already done that earlier this week. I'm going to be calling the finishing move, the scorecards, the way the fight's going to go every single round, starting with the early prelim opener of Christian Aguilera versus Carlston Harris. Now, I do believe, as you already know earlier this week, that Carlston Harris is going to get the job done by submission. But the way the fight is going to play out, in my opinion, is that Aguilera and Harris are going to have a really, really entertaining start to the first half of the first round of their bout. And that's going to be because of Aguilera swinging for the bleachers against Carlston Harris, looking for a quick finish. He's a very fast starter. I think Aguilera is going to go out there, look to land some big bombs. I think Carlston Harris is going to land some big bombs back on Aguilera and engage in that scrappy moment in the first half of the first round, and I think that's going to earn Aguilera's respect a little bit. Then towards the second half of the first round, Aguilera is going to be looking to land big bombs again, go in for another exchange, and that time Carlston Harris, after earning his respect early in the fight, is going to dive underneath the combinations of Aguilera, get himself a double leg in that first round and put Aguilera on the mat. Aguilera is going to try and defend, and maybe he works himself back up to his feet against a cage, but Carlston Harris is going to be kneeing at the fire, little punches like Kutalaba, Dustin Jacoby style against a cage. By the way, last weekend I did really well, so hopefully we can keep this ball rolling. But either way, I think Carlston Harris is going to take down Aguilera against the cage at the end of the first round. That's going to secure the first round for Carlston Harris. Aguilera is going to come out in the second round a little bit more timid on the feet. Harris is going to start landing some good shots. Aguilera is going to get annoyed that he's now being outstruck by a guy in Carlston Harris that he didn't expect to be outstruck by. Then in the second round, Harris is going to take down Aguilera again after Aguilera goes for yet again another big rush and flurry. And Harris, I think that time that he gets him to the ground is going to be a real bad sign for Aguilera, and Aguilera is going to look to work his way back up against the cage, not do it correctly whatsoever, give up his back, and I think Carlston Harris is going to take the back against the cage while Aguilera is on his knees and flatten Aguilera out against the cage on the canvas and earn himself a rear naked choke finish in the second round. In the second half of the second round for Carlston Harris, he will earn himself a rear naked choke submission. Moving on up the card, Yong versus Tafon Nchukwi. I don't see a finish here. I do see Tafon Chukwue winning. I think he does win by decision. I just don't see there being a finish. I think it's going to be a very interesting scrap back and forth. I can see this being a 29-28 unanimous decision. Yong, the entire time, in my opinion, is going to be looking to get this fight to the ground, pushing Tafon Nchukwi against the cage. Majority of the time, I think that's where he's going to want to keep the fight, but I think Tafon Nchukwi is going to land all of the significant strikes necessary in the first two rounds of this bout to earn himself those rounds, whereas maybe Yong is getting some takedowns and holding Chukwue against the cage. I think Chukwe's going to be landing the knees to the middle or the knees to the body while he's got his back against the cage. Some little punches in the clinch as well. Maybe even landing some good body kicks and some good punches on the feet whenever they're at range. In the meantime of the fight, in the first two rounds, Tafon Chukwe's going to be the only person doing damage, and I think it's going to be a little bit of a Yong issue where he's just not doing enough damage and he's just looking for the constant grappling situations that don't really score you points anymore. But in the third round, I do believe that Yong is going to eventually get Tafon Nchukwi to the ground, settle there, land some total strikes, but nothing too significant. I think he's going to be acting like he's won the fight come the final bell, but Tafon Nchukwi will have secured the first two rounds just by doing more damage and being the one who's actually doing damage in the fight and landing good shots on the feet and landing good kicks and knees on the feet as well, while Yong just tries to be a wet blanket. I see a 29-28 decision for Tafon Nchukwi, winning himself the first two rounds based on damage, while maybe losing some positional control the entire time. Moving on up the card, Ludovit Klein versus Mike Trizano. I'm going Ludovit Klein. I think a lot of people are, and I'm actually going to pick him by head kick finish again. I think he's going to set it up with a head kick, follow up with shots afterwards, and I can see yet another head kick finish for Ludovit Klein. I don't like the inactivity of Mike Trizano here, but we're not even talking about that. Let's get into how the fight's going to play out. I think Mike Trizano is going to try to take down early. It's not going to work out. He's going to try and land some shots early. It's not going to work out, and I think around the 2-minute mark, after both guys have been landing some popping jabs back and forth, but Ludovit Klein's maybe getting the better of it, I think Ludovit Klein's going to throw some straight shots, then follow up that straight punch with a head kick behind it, Robert Whittaker style, and finish off Mike Trizano with some punches after the head kick lands, and rocks Trizano to the ground exactly the same way that he beat Shane Young. I picked Ludovit Klein to get a head kick KO in his UFC debut. He did. He's got 3 in a row. I think that's kind of not a coincidence. I think that's just what he's going for in this fight. So he likes the head kicks. Why wouldn't you? They're like one of the coolest finishing moves. And I think Ludovit Klein's going to get it done by first round head kick TKO against Mike Trizano. Moving on up the card, Phil Hawes versus Kyle Daukaus. I'm going with Kyle Daukaus. I think he'll get this one done again by 29-28 unanimous decision. However, Phil Hawes is going to win himself the first round. Not like the Park Yong Tafon Chukwue situation. I actually see this fight being very similar to that fight, in all honesty. But I think Daukaus is better at what Yong does than Yong, and I think Phil Hawes is worse at what Tafon Chukwue does than Tafon Chukwue, and I think that's going to be the main difference in this bout. I can see Kyle Daukaus pushing Phil Hawes against the cage. Phil Hawes maybe having some good moments early, and maybe, who knows, he drops Kyle Daukaus in that first round and has a really big moment that steals him that round, and Daukaus has to fight back and push Phil Hawes against the cage again. But I think Kyle Daukaus in the last 2 rounds of this bout especially is going to secure himself knees to the thigh against the cage, punches to the body, at range as well. I think he's going to have a bit of an advantage. Like, he's got really good stand-up, incredibly technical, but I think he's going to be either in or out, pumping jabs from the outside, or smothering Phil Hawes against the cage. And I think just towards the second half of the second and third round, we're going to see Kyle Daukaus just relentlessly pushing Phil Hawes against the cage, stamping on his toes, kneeing up the fire, punching to the body, and I think that's going to secure him the win here, maybe even going for a couple of takedowns, and maybe in that third round, I could see Daukaus getting Phil Hawes down to the ground, who's going to be a little bit more tired, and I think he'll eventually land some good damage there, and maybe have some good moments. I can see a 29-28 decision for Kyle Daukaus, based on the second and third round. Maybe he loses the first. Moving on up the card, to the main card, Amanda Ribas versus Angela Hill. I'm picking Angela Hill. I like her chances here. Amanda Ribas is good, but I think she doesn't take punches too well, and I think that's going to be the tail of the tape here. I think Angela Hill is going to go out there, land some good shots early in the first round. Amanda Ribas is going to maybe go for some grappling situations. I think Angela Hill's going to stuff those grappling situations. They maybe end up against a cage, and Angela Hill finds herself back at range again on the feet. That's going to put off Ribas from going for those takedowns. Then I think Angela Hill's going to tag Ribas with some big shots towards the end of the first round, and that's going to have Ribas a little bit cautious about going in for any exchanges on the feet, and I think we're just going to see Ribas be a little bit too timid here, and Angela Hill just outstrike her at range for 3 rounds on the feet. And I think Angela Hill gets this one done purely because of Amanda Ribas not wanting to be KO'd, and Angela Hill thinking that she can't be KO'd. I think that's going to be the big difference here. I don't see Amanda Ribas being able to grit down the way I do Angela Hill, and I think Angela Hill's going to win this one 30-27 on the strikes every single round. Moving on up the card, Carlos Diego Ferreira versus Gregor Gillespie. Now, Carlos Diego Ferreira missed weight, which is really annoying, because I already had money on Gillespie, but either way, I'm picking Gillespie here. I think he'll go out there, win this one by decision. I can see a 30-27 here for Gregor Gillespie as well. I think he's going to just manipulate Carlos Diego Ferreira against the cage, land those knees to the thigh, maybe go for some takedowns in the center, but here's the difference between Gregor Gillespie and other grapplers. When other grapplers get Carlos Diego Ferreira to the ground, they're going for half guard, they're going for side control, they're going for full mount, they're going for situations where Carlos Diego Ferreira can get a hold of something. Like, there's going to be some moments where grapplers take on Carlos Diego Ferreira when they're in full guard with Carlos Diego Ferreira, and he's looking for arm bars, he's looking to go for triangles, things like this. With Gregor Gillespie, I just never see him settling in position of full guard. I don't think he's going to do that against Carlos Diego Ferreira. I think he's just going to stay with his hands locked around the waist of Carlos Diego Ferreira. Very Khabib versus Abel Trujillo-esque, where whenever Carlos Diego Ferreira gets back to his feet, I think Gillespie's just going to roll him back down to the ground again, sweep away his base, and I think Gillespie's going to win himself a not so entertaining but very effective grappling ragdolling session against Carlos Diego Ferreira. And also, I think he's going to do quite well on the feet first. I think the first half of the first round, both guys are going to have some moments on the feet, but I think that's what's going to separate it. Gillespie's going to be a little bit too strong in manipulating the body weight of Carlos Diego Ferreira, and that's going to edge him out some of the close rounds. 30-27 to Gregor Gillespie. Moving on up the card, Maurice Greene versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I'm going with Maurice Greene. And that's not just because of how he looked at the weigh-ins. I was picking him before I saw how good he looked at the weigh-ins, because he has really gotten in much better shape. I just think he's going to stick on the outside and be nowhere near Marcos Rogerio de Lima for de Lima to do anything to him whatsoever. I think Maurice Greene's going to jab Marcos Rogerio de Lima's face off from the outside, throw the oblique kick, throw the teep to the stomach, and I don't think Marcos Rogerio de Lima is going to be able to do much about that other than just accept it and try and sort of beg Maurice Greene to come along and try and throw hooks with him. And I don't see Marcos Rogerio de Lima being able to do anything. I don't think he's going to be able to get Maurice Greene to the ground. I think Maurice Greene's range is going to be too good for Marcos, and I think that's just going to be the tail of the tape. It's going to be looking like Greg Hardy versus the guy he took on, Jorgen de Castro, where one guy's just at range pumping stuff that don't really do anything, but like the other guy's just not in range to do anything whatsoever himself. And I think Maurice Greene's going to win a lackluster 30-27 unanimous decision. Moving on up the card, Neal Magny versus Geoff Neal, Battle of the Neals. Should maybe be the main event, but we'll get to that in a second. Neal Magny versus Geoff Neal. Really looking forward to this one. I can see Geoff Neal winning this by late second round TKO. I think Neal Magny's going to have some success. Both guys are going to have a decent first round. I think Geoff Neal's going to win that first round based on the big moments. I think this is going to be a lot of touch. Neal Magny hits Geoff Neal hits Neal Magny hits Geoff Neal hits Neal Magny, leg kick for leg kick, jab for jab, boom! Geoff Neal tags Magny with something, Magny's on the back foot, Geoff Neal's coming forward, nothing really happens, but Geoff Neal's the one coming forward and landing those big shots, and I think that's going to be the difference in the judges' eyes. The first round is going to go to Geoff Neal, and he's going to rock Neal Magny at one point in that round and start unloading against the cage, but decide against gassing himself out. Magny's going to come back, try and land his little tapping kicks and his jabs. Then in the second round, Geoff Neal's going to start putting it together a little bit more, and when he rocks Neal Magny in the second round, towards the end of the second round, I think Geoff Neal's going to put it together against the cage, put Neal Magny down and get a TKO finish against the cage with body shots, with hooks around the guard of Neal Magny. Geoff Neal by late second round TKO. Moving on up the card, Donald Cerrone versus Alex Morono. I'm going to go with Donald Cerrone here by unanimous decision. I'm calling it 29-28. There's a lot of decisions on this card, so if there's a prop for that or a bet that you can make, I would bet on making a bet on there being a lot of decisions here. I'm going to go with Donald Cerrone by unanimous decision, 29-28. I think both guys are going to have some moments. Alex Morono maybe is going to win himself the first round, which is normally to be expected in Donald Cerrone fights. I'm actually going to go with not a 29-28, I'm going to go 29-27, Donald Cerrone. I think he'll earn himself a 10-8 round in the third. I think Morono's going to have a really good first, land some good shots here and there, maybe get Donald Cerrone's respect and have a moment where he's maybe landing some good shots on Cerrone against the cage, goes for a takedown, maybe he gets a good position, but Cerrone sort of stays out of it. Then the second round comes around. I think it's going to be very competitive. Donald Cerrone is going to start landing some more combinations, some more switch kicks to their head, things like this, catching Alex Morono on the feet. Morono's going to be also landing back some good shots, but I think Cerrone's going to edge out that second round just by landing the more effective strikes and landing more of them as well. Then in the third round, I think Donald Cerrone's going to really put it on Alex Morono, who has not had a full camp for this, and I think Morono's going to start to slow down in the third, run out of options, and kind of get the shit beat out of him on the feet, but I don't think he gets finished. I think he maybe gets rocked, maybe he gets dropped at one moment, but Cerrone's just going to beat him up in that third round, kicking at his legs when Morono... I can already see it right now. I can see Morono in the third, gassed out, on his back, trying to invite Donald Cerrone into the ground game, and Cerrone just kicking his legs, beating him up on the feet a little bit from the top position without having to go into his guard. And I think Morono's just going to be desperately getting back up, like, oh my god, he won't come to the ground with me, I've got to stand with him. And Cerrone's just beating him up in the third round. I can really see that happening. I'm going to go 29-27 Donald Cerrone. Moving on up the card to the main event, Marina Rodriguez versus Michelle Waterson. I'm going with Michelle Waterson here. I think she'll win this one by unanimous decision. I'm going to go 3 rounds to 2. The last 3 rounds to Michelle Waterson. Volkanovski-Holloway style. I'm going to go Marina Rodriguez landing good shots in the first. Maybe she even drops Michelle Waterson at one point in a close round where both girls are landing good shots. But I think Marina Rodriguez is going to land more of the shots. Land some good ones as well that are really going to start marking up Michelle Waterson. The second round's going to come around. Marina Rodriguez is also going to be landing some good shots there, but it's going to get a little bit closer. I still give the second round to Marina Rodriguez. I think every single time Marina starts from then on in the third, fourth, and fifth round, whenever she starts starts to land good boxing combinations. I think Michelle Waterson's going to use her sidekick to keep Marina Rodriguez at bay, maybe land it to the face a couple of times as well. That mixed in with exhaustion for Marina Rodriguez is going to lead her to lose the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, being outstruck, being outlanded. I think she's going to get the unanimous decision loss against Michelle Waterson, winning 3, 4, and 5 for the Karate Hottie. Moving on to nothing. That's the whole card. Like and subscribe. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later.